everybody? This is What Is Doozy 1929 here with another episode of GTA Autos. In the last episode, we talked about the Grotti Stinger, a somewhat weird little roadster. No, it's not weird little roadster. It's a cool little sporty roadster from the 60s that's very expensive, and I would say it's not that fast, but for the money, you get a wonderful little roadster. Okay, today's episode, we're going to be talking about such an interesting little car. This is probably one of Rockstar's longest running cars that barely has changed a bit. This is the iconic Blista Compact. Now, the Blista Compact, it's one of Rockstar's probably longest running car. I would say only being not introduced in only 2 games, if I'm correct. Um, it was first introduced in Grand Theft Auto Vice City, and it was just basically a car that no one expected to be very fast and very quick. The Blista Compact could compete against the Comet, the Infernus, and the Cheetah, all the sports cars that were in Grand Theft Auto Vice City. And this thing really did turn heads. I remember stealing this car every freaking time and entering in the Vice City races and smoking these wonderful high-performance supercars on this game. Now, it was also in many other Grand Theft Auto games, including San Andreas, Vice City Stories, Grand Theft Auto 4, Lost in the Dam, Gay Tony, Chinatown Wars, and it's technically wasn't introduced. This body design technically wasn't introduced until the next gen variations of Grand Theft Auto 5, which is PS4 and the Xbox One. But the Blista Compact technically still was in Grand Theft Auto 5, but it was basically based off a different Honda. It was the first time that Rockstar had changed the Blista Compact so heavily. We're not going to be talking about that one because no one likes that one. The original Blista Compact was the classic. It was the original. Everyone loved it. It was that quirky car that basically no one thought could have so much performance. But just get down to the history of this car. This car is based off the iconic 1980s Honda CRX. The Honda CRX was back then probably one of the perfect cars and put Honda basically on the map in the United States in the 80s. The Honda CRX basically fit many descriptions of what anyone in America wanted. They wanted a small little car, good on gas, and has a touch of performance. And the Honda CRX fit all 3 of those descriptions. It was produced in 1983 to 1991, and throughout those years, it really shined. First of all, it basically had probably one of the best handling. It was one of the best handling cars of the decade, with being front-wheel drive and its 2+2 seating arrangement. It basically had probably one of the best top-notch handling throughout the 1980s and throughout the early 1990s. It was nimble. It can go through a tight corner very tight and very well. This car basically knew what to do when going through tight areas. This car had some wonderful performance. Now, this is 1980s terms. 0 to 60 was around 9 seconds. That was pretty decent. Of course, 0 to 60 over here in 2016 is around, I'll say the average sedan would get from 0 to 60 in around 6-7 seconds. But the Blista Compact, the Honda CRX back then was a pretty zippy little performance car. Now, it basically was very good with gas. The 1.3 liter, 58 horsepower, 4-cylinder basically was the key to solving the gas crisis that some people was facing. I would say the gas crisis was still going around in the early 80s, and this car really did very well with gas. Now, the EPA mileage rating for the car was basically 52 miles per gallon, and in today's standards, that is so awesome because you can barely even get a Prius to get to that point. I don't even think any Prius can get to that point. And there's records showing that the Honda CRX could actually reach a total miles per gallon over 70 miles per gallon. And that is probably one of the best miles per the best miles per gallon ratings I've ever seen in an old car in history. I've never seen, not even a hybrid of today can ever get to a 70 miles per gallon rating. No hybrid can ever touch that. I don't think not one hybrid made in 2016 can ever get to that record. Now, it ceased production 1991 and was ultimately replaced by the Honda Del Sol. It was kind of sort of like a CRX, but it wasn't the same. Everybody was so used to the classic hatchback CRX that it wasn't the point of being just wasn't right just to basically stick the CRX name on a little two-seater roadster that basically didn't look okay. I did not like the Del Sol. To me, it was crappy. But I would say when it comes to the performance, it really did have the performance. It's 1.6 liter, 135 horsepower, four cylinder. Basically, like I said, rocketed this thing from 0 to 60 in around 8 seconds. And I said this again. I'll say it again. That was amazing back in the 80s. Today, scrap. But CRX goes down in history to be one of the cars that I would say are heavily customizable, heavily used in racing, and heavily used when someone who really wants to really want a car that really wants to sips its gas. And if you want a classic car that can sips gas, this is the car for you. Now, I would say the downside of the CRX was that it did not have any rear seats. The car was not advertised to have any rear seats, and I don't blame nobody for I don't blame them for trying, because if you look in the back seat, it would be kind of very, very difficult to get anyone of any size to sit in the back seat with the CRX. And I know y'all just saying this is a game, just you're judging just by using the try fitting at least someone my size in a CRX. I am 6'5", and it's hard for me to get in and out of any kind of small car. It's really difficult. And to get someone out of this small area, especially when the hatchback literally, when the roof is sloping, it's not that very comfortable. So it's best if they just kept it as just a two-seater. Now that's the only downside. But I like the interior of the Blista Compact because it is period correct. Now I'm gonna go outside and I'm gonna show you what I mean by that. You're gonna hear me reference period correct stuff because Rockstar kind of tends to not, give their cars a little bit of period correct interior. I would say the only thing I hate is just your steering wheel because it does not match the total overall interior of the car. But you look in the interior, this car basically matches a 1980s car. You look at the dash, you look at the steering wheel, not steering, you look at the gauges, you look at the AC, you look at the radio. This is strictly 1980s territory. There's not one car that I can think of that came out of a decade where there is sliding, I would say, I don't know how you say it, but sliding switches to turn on your AC or to have a speedometer that basically looks like this. You don't see new cars with this type of speedometer. You do not see new cars with this type of interior, these types of door handles, the locks. Looking at the locks, this is strictly 1980s. This car, it's a performer. It's not that fast. I would say that Rockstar really did tune the Blista Compact so heavily down. I don't think it could be a car that can compete against not a lot of sports cars, but it can compete with the cheap sports cars. If you don't know what a cheap sport car is on this game, I would say, give you an example, the Futo, the that Mitsubishi Eclipse car. I keep forgetting the name of it. And I would say the Sultan, the regular Sultan. Those cars are the cheap sports cars, and this car probably can. This car competes with those cars, and it fits that general area when it comes to performance. Now, when you take it to the Los Santos Customs, I would say it doesn't have a lot of customizations. Now, everybody knows that in Grand Theft Auto, the regular San Andreas, it was the first game where you could customize cars. Now, when you took the Blista Compact to the customization shop over there, it basically, you can customize the Blista Compact in so many different ways. It was probably one of the cars where, probably one of the only civilian compact cars that you can heavily customize, that is not, that you don't have to take to a special mod shop like the Lowrider Garage and the tuner shop over in San Fierro and stuff like that. But this car can be heavily modified in the customization shop in the regular San Andreas. As for this game, it's not very heavily customized. Actually, the Futo has the most customizable parts in the whole game. The most customizable car that's technically not a sports car, but it is classed as one. But it's very heavily customizable. Now we get to the performance section with this car. Like I said, it's not that fast, but it's really cool to have. Its tight handling really is quirky. Like I said, this thing is nimble when it comes to handling. So we're gonna try the 0 to 60 timing. I'm gonna get my stopwatch so we can at least time the 0 to 60 so we can see if this thing can be classified as a sports car in my field, because lots of people will say it is a sports car, it isn't a sports car, but we're gonna try to test that. So let's see. Now this thing is front wheel drive, so we might have a lot of wheel spin and less acceleration. So let's try to give this the lowest RPM range. So let's get started. Alright, my 0 to 60 timing was around 13.57 seconds. Sadly to say, the Blista Compact is probably one of the worst sports cars in the game. It's a more of just more of an economy car, as you say, and that's not bad. It's not bad, but when it comes to performance, it doesn't have it. And it's sad to say that the Blista Compact is not a performance car anymore, because before then, this car would really dominate going against these fast cars. Even the Blista Compact from Grand Theft Auto 4 had more performance and can compete with some sports cars. Some, not all. It can compete against some. I would say the Uranus, what's that other car? The Ruiner. And I would say the Feltzer too, because the Feltzer wasn't that good of a performance car back in the Grand Theft Auto 4. But this car is, like I said, not a performance car on this game. More like an economic car. They should actually rename this car as just a compact instead of a sports. But as I end things off, I'm going to show you basically how it looks like when you open everything up. Especially with this back door, because this back door is really cool. See, like I said, this thing would be very uncomfortable to have two or more people in this car. It's not that comfortable to sit in the back. Now you get a lot of trunk space, but it's just more of a compact car. This thing has a 4-cylinder. I like how the engine displacement is. It's a little bit big, but a 1.4. That's actually what you will see in a real Honda CRX. So I'm not arguing about that or what Rockstar is trying to do. Styling, 1 to 10. I have to give it a 5, because even though when it's a car based off the 80s, it's a weird looking car that basically no one will want. It's, how you say, ugly, but it's also ugly cute. And you can't just mix 2 and 2 and get one thing. So surprisingly, Rockstar managed to do that. So the styling's gonna have to be 5. Performance. I sadly have to give it a 3, because this car is probably one of the slowest sports cars in its class. Reliability, I would say it's a 5, because it's a 50-50 chance that this car might help you when it comes to handling, but this car also will be so underpowered that you will get caught. So I'm gonna have to get a 5. It all depends on who's driving it though. So who should be driving this car? I think everyone should drive it. I would say it's heavily overpriced, because for $46,000, you're basically just getting a car that is $42,000. You're getting a car that is so underpowered, it's not worth getting. Matter of fact, this car should be in the range of between, I would say between $1,000 and $15,000 round range. I would say that's the amount of money this car is worth. Now, whew, tired. Um, Other than that, I don't think I have anything else to say about this car. Other than that, it's just to me, it's a cool car because I like the '80s. Who doesn't like the '80s? Now, some people say they don't like the '80s, but I love the '80s. I love the music. I love some of the cars, and it's just really cool. And I think Rockstar should put more cars like this on the road of Los Santos and San Andreas. It'll be really cool. And sooner or later, I think I might. I mean, you know what? Right after this video, I'm gonna start another video. It's gonna be talking about cars that should be on this game, that should return. So probably after this, after I leave, I'm gonna make that video automatically. So please join that other video so you can see what cars that you think should be added on here. In that case, I'll see you guys later on today. um, Before I leave, I do remember hearing. Before I leave, I did get a comment saying what was my favorite car. Hmm. I'll reveal that soon. I don't know if my mic is working now because right now it's saying it's not on, and I hope it's working. But my favorite car is the Roosevelt. That's my favorite car. The Albany Roosevelt is my favorite car because it's a cool little car. It's a cool car. It's big. It's luxury. It's from the 20s. I like it. So if I would say my favorite car on here, it would be the Roosevelt. But I'm gonna say a lot of cars are gonna be my favorite. But to me, the ultimate car is my favorite. Will be the Roosevelt. Now, the cars I will be talking about in the next episode, I would probably say one of them will be second to third on my list. So that's about it. I answered your question. Feel free to ask more if you like, Mr. Ecant. See you guys in the next episode.